So I just read a report that said that the price of XRP going up is related to some good news that is coming out in the Ripple versus the SEC case. So I'm going to tell you exactly what that good news is and if it actually correlates to the price of XRP going up or if it simply correlates to what Bitcoin is doing right now. I'm going to cover all that stuff in this video, including what's going to come out on February 17th that everyone is going to get to see in the Ripple versus the SEC case that could prove to be that bombshell that may end the case. And in some Bitcoin news, yet another ETF was just approved yesterday that is going to be listed on the NASDAQ. It specifically involves Bitcoin, but I'm going to tell you how this one misses the mark, just like the futures ETF that was approved. And making the rounds on Twitter this morning, the Department of Justice announced that they have arrested 2 individuals in connection with a 2016 hack of the Bitfinex exchange in which they stole 120,000 Bitcoin worth billions of dollars. They caught these 2 individuals trying to launder some of that money, and I'll put a link to my Twitter profile in the description below in which you can go read about that case. It's crazy. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind. And right now on this channel, we are covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, join the Late Night Grind community. Also, don't forget to hit that bell notification icon so that YouTube will send you a notification when I release a new video. And if you're feeling generous today, I'd really appreciate it if you do 2 things. Smash the thumbs up button and watch the video all the way to the end. Those are really the 2 best things you can do to support a YouTube channel. So if you do that, I greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, let's jump into it. So I want to talk about what was just approved by the SEC yesterday. It's another ETF that revolves around the Bitcoin ecosystem, the Bitcoin economy, but not actually Bitcoin. The SEC just approved a Valkyrie Bitcoin mining ETF, which is going to be an ETF that is based around Bitcoin mining companies in which you can get exposure to the positive momentum of Bitcoin, but without actually having to buy Bitcoin. Now, as it stands right now, the SEC has approved a futures-based ETF, which is basically just a gamble on the price of Bitcoin. They've also now approved this Bitcoin miners ETF, which gets you exposure to the overall positivity of what Bitcoin and Bitcoin price is actually doing. But what they haven't done is actually approve a spot Bitcoin ETF, meaning a spot Bitcoin ETF is direct exposure to Bitcoin itself. So what the SEC is doing is saying, listen, we'll give you exposure to what Bitcoin represents, some of these secondary items that represent part of the Bitcoin economy, but we're not going to give you direct access to Bitcoin itself through an ETF. Now, what some people are saying is that it's kind of a net positive for Bitcoin and the crypto industry as a whole, but it's not necessarily a really strong positive directly for Bitcoin, because what it does, some people are saying it's basically just taking in institutional money and some big investor money, which normally might go to actually investing in actual Bitcoin or a spot Bitcoin ETF, and it's taking that money away and putting it into different sectors like the futures ETF or the Bitcoin mining ETF. Nonetheless, it is something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, because unlike the futures-based ETF, this Bitcoin mining ETF might get a whole different industry of people looking into it that are interested in Bitcoin mining, but don't exactly have the technical knowledge to actually go about and do any of it. So let me know in the comment section below if this is something that would interest you rather than something like a Bitcoin futures ETF. Okay, so let's get into the Ripple versus the SEC case. So I recently just read a report that said all the recent price movements of XRP were because of some good news that is actually coming out of the courts revolving around this case. Now, what they were actually talking about was the ruling that Judge Torres had made a few days ago when she said that some of these documents that Ripple had submitted to the court months ago had to be unsealed. Ripple was actually trying to keep these documents sealed, claiming they were basically private business information and they didn't want the public to see it. Nonetheless, Ripple still submitted it to the judge in its own defense. So what is this piece of information that everybody is going to get to see on February 17th? Well, it's going to be the actual documents that Ripple submitted in their defense. It's going to be the unredacted version, minimally redacted as what Judge Torres has said she wants them to do. And her ruling was to keep this document unsealed so everyone's going to get to see exactly what these memos were. So what is in some of these memos? Well, the big one that just came out was actually the legal guidance that Ripple got in 2012 from a legal entity stating that XRP is neither a security and it does not represent an investment contract with Ripple. Now, that information was actually put forth by Ripple's lead defense steward, Stuart Alderati, and basically he put this comment out there, I'm guessing to let people know A, what it is, but B, to kind of keep people's attention away from things that maybe Ripple doesn't want everyone else to want to see. Who knows? That's just my own speculation. But nonetheless, that is what those documents are going to say. That is why Ripple submitted those documents to the judge to say, listen, in 2012, we had legal guidance, and their suggestion was that XRP is not a security. It doesn't represent an investment contract with Ripple. And what they're trying to do is put the SEC on the hot seat, or put the SEC on the defensive to try to make them prove otherwise. Because if the SEC is trying to strike down Ripple's fair notice defense, in other words, claiming that Ripple did in fact have enough knowledge to believe that the sales of XRP would be a security, then that would put the SEC with the advantage. But if these documents clearly show that Ripple received guidance otherwise, that's going to be huge for Ripple's fair notice defense, claiming there really was no clarity from anywhere from 2012 all the way up to 2020, which is the time frame that the SEC is actually claiming that Ripple made all of these securities sales. So as Jeremy Hogan has pointed out, who is the outside attorney covering this case is now being handed over essentially from Judge Netburn to Judge Torres. Judge Netburn was essentially presiding over the case to handle all the discovery disputes, all the discovery issues that are now that have happened and are still happening, and then it will be turned over to Judge Torres. Judge Torres will be taking over a somewhat of a messy case, as Jeremy Hogan called it. However, she's made it loud and clear that she wants these documents to be public. She did not allow Ripple to keep them sealed, and we can only hope that she's going to feel the same way about the SEC's documents, specifically the emails around William Hinman's speech. Even if there is a redacted version of those emails to come out, that could be catastrophic to the SEC's case. So, as I said before, February 17th, that is the date in which the documents that Ripple has submitted to the case have to be unsealed, which everybody's going to get to see. And if you want to see them firsthand, you're going to want to make sure you follow me on Twitter. Also, you're going to want to follow attorney Jeremy Hogan and attorney James K. Filan, who's usually one of the first one to actually post these documents whenever they hit during this case. So I'll put a link in the description to my Twitter account. You can also just go search Twitter for James Filan and Jeremy Hogan. So in my opinion, that kind of puts a damper on the whole idea that the recent price movements of XRP has to do with the Ripple case. It really doesn't. It has to do with what Bitcoin is doing. It's literally mirroring it. The chart I have up here is XRP. However, if I flip it over to Bitcoin, it's literally doing the same thing, just with a few more liquidation events, which are those big spikes up and big spikes down. So if you hear anybody saying that the price of XRP is moving because of the news in the Ripple case, not yet. Not yet. I don't think we're that far into this case for that to actually happen. A lot of the upward movement has to do with what's going on with Bitcoin. You can pretty much follow that for most of the altcoins as well. So let me know in the comments section below and on Twitter if these documents that Ripple has to have unsealed and unredacted, if they're actually going to prove that Ripple did receive guidance that XRP is not a security and that the SEC does not have good standing, claiming that Ripple had clarity even back in 2012. And also, before I wrap up this video, if you did not get to see yesterday's video, I encourage you to go check that out as well. But I also wanted to make mention that the Sologenic NFT marketplace is going to be going live with the buy button ready to go, ready for you to buy, sell, transact your NFTs. There's well over 10,000 NFTs that are already minted on the Sologenic marketplace. Tomorrow, the 9th, that's going to be the day. Also, speaking of some NFTs, yesterday in my video I covered the new NFT project coming out called Doodle Friends. And I'll put a link in the description below. You can actually go and mint a Doodle Friends at the low price, get whitelisted, specifically through this late night grind community. I have my own link. You go fill out a Google form in which you'll become whitelisted and get a chance to mint one of those NFTs and get in essentially on the ground floor of a brand new NFT project. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and do that. Also, if you are new to the late night grind community, don't forget to hit the community tab. I put up polls up there on a weekly, sometimes a daily basis, and I'd love to get to know your guys' thoughts on the cryptocurrency community, the Ripple versus the SEC case, even some NFTs. So go ahead and participate in those polls. I'd really appreciate it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, for giving it a big thumbs up, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.